We got a lot we want to get into, and we'll save the portion of the open road part for the end. But before we do that, last time you and I were on here, we hadn't even finished the Western Conference Finals. That has since concluded. We've had two games of the NBA Finals between the Knicks and the Spurs. Obviously, going back to the Western Conference Finals, the Spurs triumphed over the Thunder in 7 games. Now we got game three tomorrow night at the Garden. The Knicks are up 2-0 in the series. I want to leave it to you, man, see where you want to take it with this basketball discussion.
Yeah, man. Shout out New York City, man. City's going wild out there. Props to the Knicks, bro. Props to the Knicks. As much shit they were getting in the beginning of the playoffs, including from like people like us and other people, they're proving the haters wrong. They've had some tough battles throughout the years. They've always you can take it back when they were playing. I think they were like there was like a playoff or two playoffs where they were losing to the Heat when the Heat had like Jimmy Butler and they were kind of peaking at that time. They also had a few battles with the Pacers, with Tyrese Halliburton and them. Took them pretty far, I believe. The first series, I think, went to 7. I think they had a 3-1 lead. And then the second one, that game one just kind of killed the vibe, and then the Pacers just ultimately ran that series. But shout out the Knicks, man. They played a tough Hawks team at the first round, which actually gave them the best competition so far. And then they beat coming back from 3-1 against Boston, the rivals. That people were starting to think maybe it's Philly's turn to take that step and win the East. They kind of shut that down. And then, I was on the Knicks against the Cavs, but some other people picked the Cavs over the Knicks, and then the Knicks just kind of swept them. But definitely that game one definitely did change a lot. But yeah, man, they're just the hottest team right now. Cats balling out this past month or two. Shout out Mike Brown. I know some of us were. I'm not the biggest fan of him. But hey, you can't deny he's taking them to the finals. They're up 2-0. New York City fans have a right to be very happy, very hyped. Team's hitting on all cylinders right now, and yeah, like I think they're balling out. This finals, even before this finals was played, it was kind of giving me the vibes. And let me know if you agree. Like it was kind of giving me the vibes of that Bucks Suns series. Not saying it's gonna turn out the same, but it was kind of like a welcoming out party for Giannis, like a kind of his first finals. And I thought it was kind of similar to Wemby, even though Wemby's kind of doing it younger still. But and then they're playing kind of like a tough team, like where the Suns had like Booker, who's a superstar, but he's not like like the best player in the world type of deal, or like close to it. And that's kind of how Brunson is. Like Brunson's like he's up there, but he's not the best player in the world. But I mean, hey, the Suns are up 2-0, the Knicks are up 2-0. Not saying the Spurs are gonna go win 4 straight right now. Don't get me wrong, but I do wanna preface, like, I'm giving the Knicks props, but we've seen a lot of teams come back from 2-0. Like I don't want to think say the series is over, but this is definitely a good first step for the Knicks because I mean taking 2 in the road like that, that's big props. They definitely have the advantage in the series, and and I think you mentioned on text one time that having the fan base travel around to the Spurs house definitely feels like a Knicks home game. But like, let me know your thoughts about that, bro. Like the comparison to the series, and like just like kind of like them having like a home advantage even on the road at times too.
Yeah, I mean, I think I know you had kind of mentioned the comparison between the Bucks and the Sun series. My brain hadn't gone there, but when you bring it up, it is fascinating. Uh, I do agree with a lot of what you said. I mean, I think, you and I have come on here and we've had a lot of basketball discussions off the record as well. And I think, for me, the way I look at it is, it's just continuing in that it's a new era in the NBA, and it's a new sport. It's covered the same way maybe in a lot of traditional outlets or whatnot. But I think, you know, uh, when the Spurs came out and they beat the Thunder, we'll get to that later. I think there was a lot of we've talked a bit about Wemby. Obviously he's 101 and he's an amazing talent, but I feel like uh, there's been a really big propaganda push. Like, hey, if all of a sudden he's like magically the best player in the world and he's the face of the league, after LeBron, and like as much as maybe that might be true, I think it's a new game where basketball is a team sport, man, and uh, it's just a new era where it's not necessarily about who has the best player; it's just who has the best team. And I give a lot of credit to the Knicks, man. I mean, they haven't lost since April 23rd. It's June 7th. Uh, they've won, what is it? I think it's like 13 games in a row now. What is it? They were down 2-1 to the Hawks. They won three in a row. Then what is that? 7, 11, yeah, 13 games in a row, man. Quick math. That's not my strong suit, but yeah, 13 games in a row. They haven't lost since April 23rd when the Hawks beat them by 1 point to go up 2-1. They haven't lost since. I mean, you mentioned Mike Brown. I give a lot of credit where it's due to him and the coaching staff with some of the tactical adjustments that they've made in the playoffs and kind of maximizing the talent that they have. And, the way they've been, using, Carl Anthony Towns and Brunson and OG Anunoby's been great. Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart's been amazing. The bench has been rock solid, which was always the criticism we had of Tom Thibodeau is they didn't use the bench. I give a lot of credit to the Knicks, man. To go in and not only take one but two games in San Antonio, I think speaks a lot of volumes. And it's a new age in the NBA for sure. I mean, I picked the Spurs to win the series in 7 games. That was my pre-series prediction. I thought they would split games 1 and 2. The Knicks would take game 3. San Antonio would take game 4 and 5. The Knicks would take 6, and then San Antonio would win it in 7. Even though the Spurs are down 2-0 in the series, I still am going to ride with the Spurs to win the
Oh,
series.
damn. All right.
I still think the Spurs will, but I caveat that with saying that listen, man, the Knicks are legit, and I'm rooting for the Knicks. Not that I really have a horse in the race. I don't really care for either team per se, but I think just in the sense that you and I have talked. We've had a lot of conversations, even going back to the LeBron Cleveland years over a decade ago. It's a completely different sport now. It isn't just about who has the best player. It's about who's got the best team, and the Knicks are firing on all cylinders. And you know what, man, it's going to be hard for San Antonio to win the series, even though obviously I don't want to waver on my pick. I picked them to win the series. I'll ride with that. But listen, man, the Garden's going to be on fire tomorrow night, and in Game 4 on Wednesday. The cheapest ticket to get in the door is like $7,000 or some stupid shit like that. Which is a separate conversation. But the Knicks, man, they got all the energy. The city's on fire. Knicks fans are going crazy. Our shout out to our guy Armand. You did mention Jalen Brunson. I think I give a lot of credit to Jalen Brunson too, man. He's an amazing player. I feel like he doesn't really get enough credit for what he's able to do out there. I mean, obviously he gets a lot of credit, but I think even, what he's able to do, especially in the fourth quarter,
Yeah.
they put the ball in his hands, and he's the perfect example of a guy, that you go back over the years. There are certain players that no matter what their shooting percentage is through 3 quarters, they might be 5 for 18 or 3 for 17 or whatever it is. But come to the fourth quarter, he's going to keep shooting, and he's going to, you think he's averaging like 9, almost 10 points per game in the fourth quarter in the playoffs.
Yeah.
They all just fit together, man. Hart, Bridges, and Brunson. Obviously, the Villanova connection, and I give a lot of credit to the Knicks. It's a new sport. I do find it an interesting parallel with the Suns and the Bucks. Going back to that, my Braden hadn't gone there, but I think that's a fascinating way of looking at it. But yeah, I think it goes to show you that as much as a lot of the conversation before the series and even after Game 1 and after Game 2, there's a lot of Wemby. It's a team sport, and credit to the Knicks, man. They went in, and then look, I think the atmosphere part, with the traveling fans going in there, and obviously there was still a lot of Spurs fans in games 1 and 2, but having that Knicks contingency, I think, really gives those players a lot of juice. When you're getting let's go Knicks chance on the road in the finals like that, it really does. That's a big X factor for sure. But
Yeah,
so I want to ask you, do you think the Knicks are going to take it, or because I know if I remember, you said you were taking the Spurs before the series.
yeah.
Are you
Initially,
changing?
initially, I had the Spurs in six. I thought the Knicks would win game one, but I thought the Spurs would win game two. I don't want to be the type of guy that backs out of my opinion, but the Knicks are making it very hard. Like the Knicks, yes, they should win it. I'm gonna be a bit biased and adjusted to 7 games now. We have seen teams come back from 0-2 and or even 3-1, but again, the Knicks are making it very hard to stand, in my opinion. But again, I kind of want to be the guy that kind of stands on his opinion.
No, I
But
get it.
I do want to see what the Spurs coaching adjustments are to make. Being down 0-2, are they going to start playing Harper as in the starting lineup? Or what adjustments are they going to make? Because the Knicks, though, I did think the Knicks are a tough matchup for the Spurs, more so that compared to the Thunder. If it makes sense, like I think the Spurs are better than the Thunder when they play head to head, but matchup wise, I think the Knicks had a better chance against the Spurs than the Thunder. So I
No, I get
wonder,
that. That makes
and
sense.
it's also one thing I do want to point out as well. It does feel like the Knicks are definitely taking this not like they're taking this moment like, hey, this we're not gonna be here again. Like let's win it. Versus like the Spurs, I'm not saying like the Spurs are trying, but it kind of gives the vibe like they think they're gonna be here more so multiple times. The Knicks have some of their stars have been like, in the league longer, so they kind of like they're really hungry for the moment. I mean, Bridges has been in the finals before, and Anunoby. Brunson has taken his team far many times. Versus like the Spurs, who have kind of like this is kind of like the first playoffs all together. So,
Yeah,
and
I
then
get
like I mean,
that.
they did choke a bit on that last game as well. But go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I was gonna say, yeah, I mean the Spurs, I mean they had a really good chance to, win game two. And if the Spurs take game two, we're probably having a slightly different conversation. I do think, I always like to say that, sometimes when you make a prediction, there's nothing wrong with evaluating through two games and changing, the opinion. I mean, obviously, look, man, at a certain point, you gotta, I give credit where it's due, man. Like I said, the Knicks won 13 games in a row, and their margin of victory outside of maybe, these first two games, but they've been running through a lot of these games before the finals, blowing teams out in the East. Um, it's gonna be hard for San Antonio to win two games at the Garden in order to take the distance. Um, being down 0-2 like that and having to win, it would have been maybe one thing had they been down 1-1 and or not had been down 1-1, had they split 1-1 and only needed to take one game back at the Garden, but now needing to take two back. Now, granted, they don't need to take both games 3 and 4,
Yeah,
but they're gonna have to win two games in the Garden. I'm gonna stick with the Spurs just because that was my pre-pick and I'll ride with that. But again, no horse in the race. I'm rooting for a 7 game series more than anything. I think game two was great. Game one was great. I think it's been really great basketball. I think it's something that you kind of mentioned actually in one of your texts before, off the record. Uh, is the officiating. Not that we want to complain about the officiating, but I thought game two, especially,
yeah,
they were really letting them play. They were letting them be really physical. They let a lot of stuff go, which, I like that to an extent. I've always been of the opinion, look, if it's a foul, it's a foul. But I like I've always my big thing has always been consistency. I just don't like when they let them maul each other and then they call the ticky tacky stuff.
yeah,
Uh, but I think that's something I think they're going to continue to let them play physical tomorrow night. I think it's going to be another physical game. They're going to let them hit each other. Um, I think San Antonio is going to be ready. This is their first real. Uh, Obviously they're a young team. It's their first finals run, and I know you mentioned that with the Knicks, maybe the Knicks are like, hey, this is our shot. But I think, I saw something that Harrison Barnes said earlier, which I thought was really good that he said that. Obviously, saying it to the media, but Harrison Barnes was saying, hey, look, like even though this is a young team, there's never any guarantee that we'll be back here either. And we
1000%,
you
1000%.
know, there's no guarantee that even though the Spurs are young, there's never any guarantee that you're going to get back in that moment. You never know what's going to happen. I do think the Spurs are not totally far off. I mean, like I said, I think that it's still going to be. I still think it's a 7 game series. I really believe that. I think both games 1 and 2 are really tight, but you know what, man? If the Knicks end up winning the finals, I won't be surprised one bit. I'll be happy for them. I'll probably be one of the happiest non-Knicks fans in America just because it continue to prove the point of like, hey, it's a new sport. It's parity driven. It's not about who's the best player and who's the face of the league and all that. It's just about, year in and year out. Because I think a lot of the narrative coming into the series was like, I think there were a lot of people. I mean, obviously, I picked the Spurs. You picked the Spurs, but I think there was a lot of, and this will go back to Game 7 with the Spurs and the Thunder. I think there was a little bit of a media propaganda push of like trying to coronate the Spurs as like this 5 to 10 year dynasty before they even beat the Knicks.
Yeah,
Um, and you mentioned the Bucks and Suns. I mean, when the Bucks beat the Suns, it was, oh man, is this going to be the beginning of the Milwaukee Giannis run? Now, Giannis, obviously, there's the trade rumors. You mentioned, in the past, we've talked like Denver. Denver won the finals. The
yeah.
conversation was, hey, are the Nuggets now? Is this Jokic and the Nuggets and their opportunity? They only won it one time. The
Boston
Celtics
too.
won it. They won it. Everybody's saying, "Ooh, now it's Boston's turn. They got over the hump. They only won it one time." OKC last year, OKC wins it. Everybody's coming in saying OKC dynasty. They're gonna go back to back. They lose. I think it's just one of those things where I think that people are still falling into the same patterns in conversation and rhetoric and not realizing the fact that it really is a different sport now where yes, the best players still get a lot of the market share and the coverage, and that's not going to change. But I give a lot of credit to the Knicks. They're really just going out there and you can tell that they're playing with energy, with confidence. Um, I think the Knicks fully believed that they were going to win both of those games, and they got it done. And it's going to be a tall, tall task for San Antonio to come in Game 3 and take that game because obviously that's as close to a must win as you're going to get. If the
Yeah,
Spurs lose Game 3 and they go down 0-3, you don't want to say it's over, but no team's ever come back from 0-3. They're gonna have to take that game tomorrow to give themselves a
they
little bit
have
of
to.
a run. I think, yeah, I'm gonna look. I'm gonna take the Spurs to win the game tomorrow, just because I want it to be a long series, and I think it's been a competitive series. But you know what, man? I'm not gonna be surprised if the Knicks go out and go up 3-0 as well. I won't be surprised one bit. Um, and
No,
I really
agreed.
can't wait. Yeah, I can't wait to see what that atmosphere is looking like. But I do want to get your thoughts, kind of going back to that Spurs and Thunder series as well, because I know we haven't really talked about it on the record since then. And I know you've got some thoughts there, and then trying to maybe compare that 7 game series to maybe other series in the past that we've watched, maybe in the last decade or so, and kind of where that series compares to other series that you've watched over the years.
Yeah, let me jump back into that real quick. I do want to add a few points on the
Yeah,
finals.
yeah, yeah. Go
I
ahead. Go
definitely
ahead.
I definitely think for the Spurs, like yes, they're a young team, yes, they got the stars, but like you said, you never know when you're going to be in this opportunity again. Like you could think back to the OKC Thunder when they had Harden, Durant, Russ. Everyone thought like they'd probably be back, multiple finals, young team. It's okay if they lose this one. You just gotta take it in the moment. You never know what could happen in the future. Thunder are going to be stronger next season. Even when the Spurs beat the Thunder, deservedly so. But you got to remember, AJ Mitchell was out for a good amount of the games. J Dub was never like himself. He only played like 2 games, and he wasn't even himself. Thunder and Chet didn't play good at all like the last game. Like even if they stick with that team, they're going to be stronger. If they go another route of trading Chet and getting Giannis, that could be a future topic. But the Thunder are going to be stronger next season regardless, and the teams in the West are going to be stronger regardless. So I think if I'm the Spurs, even though I'm not saying they're not doing it, like you just can't take this for granted. It does seem like a learning lesson for some of their young players. Like we saw Wemby make that dumb turnover at the end. I'm okay with them doing that 2-for-1 at the end, but I think like they were kind of respecting Brunson, like expecting him to make it. So, but I just think they should have still tried to go for a better shot. But besides that point, just some mistakes. The Spurs, I believe the second game was very close. I think the first game was close, if I recall, but I think the Spurs can still make it a series. We've seen teams come back before, but I won't bank on it. But I think they can definitely make the series. I really want to see what adjustments they make with like Harper. Again, this is another future topic, but with like Fox, Harper, and Castle on the backcourt, like how they want to do it. Are they going to get them all together? I don't know, but I think they got to make some adjustments. But it's going to be a good series. I'm hoping it goes long, like you said. And I'll say with my pick, I might adjust it to 7 games now. But New York's really on a good start. Would love to see that city get a championship. I love going to New York.
Oh yeah,
Love
they're
the
gonna burn the
fans.
city down if they win
Yeah.
the series. So
Uh,
honestly, I kind of you get no horse in the race, but I feel like that'd be pretty cool to see the Knicks come out on top. But sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
oh,
Go
you're
ahead.
good. Oh, you're good. No, I was gonna say no, dude. Like, yeah, just seeing that. I'm already seeing the videos now, man. Like when they win the title, man, it's gonna be Gotham City, bro. It's gonna be crazy. Um,
Yeah,
but
they're already going crazy out there.
to, yeah, answer your question, yeah. Thoughts on Thunder Spurs? Again, dude, I think, and I think you would agree. Like, I think it was a banger series. I do think like people were maybe a little underrating the Knicks if they played the Spurs type of series. Like, I don't people were, even both ourselves. I think we were saying like, oh, whoever wins this would automatically win the finals. But for now, it doesn't look like the case. But besides that point, it was a great Western Conference Finals. It could take you to the back to the days like Lakers Spurs type of series, where it was like Kobe and Shaq with versus Duncan and those Spurs teams. Um, but yeah, I just think again, like touching on the Thunder, nothing to like pat their back. I think they'll be back. I think J Dub will be healthier next season. Hopefully, Chet should be better. I wonder what they do in the offseason if they're gonna go aggressive and maybe trade for a piece like Giannis. Well, they don't need to, but it could make them a bit OP if they want to go that route. If they don't have to give as much, if they just have to give Chet and a few draft pieces. Um, I maybe would pursue that, but it's up to them how they want to do it. They got a loaded team. I think Wallace is probably going to leave, right? Because I think he's on an expiring, so they might have a
I
few
think
players.
they'll probably keep him. They'll
Oh, they'll
probably
keep him.
keep him, but they'll have to get rid of somebody though. Somebody's
They're
gonna
going to
have
get
to
rid of
go.
Dort, or I thought like Shea's trying to keep Dort in them, but
So yeah, they're gonna have to get rid of somebody. I mean, we'll see whether it could be Dort. I think they'll keep Dort. Hartenstein will wait and see. I think they'll try to keep him, but maybe he'll leave. I would imagine at the very least, maybe they'll try to at least maybe a guy like Aaron Wiggins or Isaiah Joe or something. They might get rid of some of those guys. They do have the two first round draft picks, and they've got some additional draft capital. You did mention Shet. I don't think they're going to trade him. I think they'll keep him. I think they'll keep him. It's not really in Sam Presti's mo, in my opinion, to do that. I don't think
yeah,
they will. I mean, obviously they have the ability to do that, but I don't think they will. I don't think it. Honestly, I don't even really think it makes sense for them to do that. To be honest with you, to get rid of Shet, I think there's a little bit of a yeah, look, did he have a bad game seven and maybe not the best series in the world? Yeah, but you know what? I think he's still a really good young player. And I mean, you mentioned J Dub. I think he was never really fully healthy all year.
yeah,
Uh, and I think it'll be good for him to be able to just get his body right. And I think I think this season, because I think people forget this time last year, I mean, he was on a trajectory path to being one of those really, really, and I think he still is. I think he just wasn't really fully healthy. He had the wrist thing from last year at the end of the year that he never really fully recovered from. Then when he got that healed, then it was the hamstring. It was just one thing after another. I think just with the clean bill of health for him, I think he can. This was a all NBA, all defense, 25-5 sort of guy. Just a year ago. I think he'll build on that. Yeah, I don't think the Thunder are going anywhere anytime soon. And, I think in many ways, I think them losing to the Spurs might be a blessing for them in the long term. And then I do want to go back to the Spurs real quick with the Knicks, Spurs and Knicks series. You mentioned a couple of times, with the guards. I think, we'll continue to come on here and talk about it. I think Dylan Harper, as much as, again, everybody wants to talk about Wemby, I think Harper and Castle, I think those two guys are superstars in their own right. And they
yeah.
could be, they're on any other team that doesn't have Wemby, they're like the headline player. And I think the fact that they got all three of those guys and Fox and shout out to even a guy like Champagny, who I mean that dude's a
Yo,
great
Champagne's a
shooter.
beast, yeah. Dude,
You
and then
know,
Daryl Morey, bro, he be dropping these like studs for these good teams, you know.
Champagny, man.
Champagne, McCain, like
Yeah, Champagny, Champagny, is on the record. He's like, when I got cut from the two ways, like, he wasn't sure if he was going to stick around in the league. I remember a couple years in summer league, a couple years ago during summer league when Champagny was with the Spurs in summer league. I mean, this dude wasn't missing
yeah,
from the 3-point line, and sometimes people don't want to overreact to summer league because it's like it's just summer league, but this dude couldn't miss. And he parlayed that into getting an opportunity with the Spurs on the big league ball club, and he hasn't looked back since. Even a guy like Devin Vassell, too. I mean, on any other team,
Vassell's
he
a beast
probably
too.
could. On any other team, I think he would probably. He's one of those guys. If you put him on a different team, he could be a 20-point per game guy. Keldon Johnson sacrificed a lot too. This is a guy who was a starter at one point. They brought him off the bench. Now, he got a lot of talent. I think, what's interesting to me, you mentioned Wemby at the end of the game. I think something that's fascinating to me is, when they went out and got De'Aaron Fox, he's had the reputation coming over from the Kings of being like, we talked about Brunson as like a fourth quarter scorer. De'Aaron Fox kind of had a similar reputation of like, hey, this guy turns it up in the fourth quarter. He's a closer. And I think, he hasn't been 100%. He got hurt earlier in the playoffs, and he's clearly not 100%. But I think, he's kind of struggled a little bit, and they haven't really put the ball in his hands much at the end of games either. They've really been letting Wemby kind of, which again is Wemby, but they put the ball on Wemby's hands at the end of the game. We gave him the last two shots, and obviously the turnover was unfortunate. I think that's just one of those things. I don't even, I think Steph Castle wasn't looking for the ball. We could play Monday morning quarterback and say he shouldn't have passed it, or they should have called timeout, or whatever. What's done is done. I think in many ways, I think that actually might be a blessing. I think Wemby and the Spurs will learn from blowing a game like that. And I'll continue to say like Dylan Harper and Stephon Castle. I think those two guys are superstars in the making, and I love watching both of those guys play. But yeah, I think that Spurs and Thunder series was an incredible series. And one factor that I think a lot of people maybe aren't talking about as much is I think part of the, with San Antonio, I mean, you mentioned you thought the Knicks would take game one. And, I think part of the reason why I think you and I probably would have not been surprised about that is I do think San Antonio put a lot into winning that series against
Dude,
OKC.
you're hitting the point right there. I was gonna bring that up. Keep going, keep going. I love that. I was
No,
gonna bring
I'll
that
give
up.
it to you, man. I'll let you
No,
piggyback
no,
off of me.
no. Keep going, bro. You're on a roll right there. I
No,
like
no,
what you bring
no,
up.
take it. Hey, you know what?
No,
Take it.
dude, I kept like trying to remember what was the point I was gonna bring, and that was one of it, dude. Because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but even Wimby admitted that in the post game conference, right, of game two.
A little bit. I think they put a lot of. I don't know. I don't know for certain. I'd have to go back and dig up the transcripts, but I do know. I do know that Wemby, obviously, after they beat the Thunder, I know he was very emotional. I think that's kind of. I think they put a lot into winning that series, and I think not to say that they got complacent, but I think the Knicks walked into games 1 and 2 saying like, "Hey, everybody's here trying to coordinate the Spurs, and we're a good fucking basketball team ourselves."
Yeah, yeah,
And then obviously the Spurs could have easily won game two, but um, I think there was a lot of just early coronations of trying to just proclaim the Spurs as this next great 5 to 10 year dynasty. The same thing that we were trying to do with Milwaukee and Denver and Boston and OKC, and then the same thing, and then with Wemby. I mean, there was all kinds of Wemby articles about like, this guy is like, all of a sudden magically is like the best. I mean, this just they ramped up the propaganda pieces for sure, but. Look, I think Wemby and the Spurs are going to bounce back regardless. We'll see how the series plays out, but I think maybe in many ways that the way that they blew game 2 might actually be a blessing for them long term as well. Um, some of Wemby's comments, I think after game 2 especially were like, he had an interesting comment I read where he was saying that, the last couple of possessions were a little bit foggy for me, and I need to do a better job of being able to understand the full picture of the moment in the moment. And as much as it bothers me that I messed up the end of the game, I'm going to use that as fuel. Dylan Harper came out and said, "Yeah, we got to come out. We got to play desperate. We gotta play like our season's on the line, which it is." Uh, I think we're gonna find out a lot about San Antonio in the next 24 hours.
Yeah,
Just their mental resolve and how going into that atmosphere that they're going to be going into on the road at the Garden, down 2-0 in the series. It's their first real adversity, in the playoffs like that. Obviously OKC series notwithstanding, but just like being down 2-0 like that, at least in the OKC series, that it was back and forth. Where now it's like that. This is the first time in the playoffs where they're in a hole.
yeah.
And so we're gonna kind of see how they're able to bounce back from that. But yeah, going back to the Thunder and Spurs series, I know that was a really great 7-game series, and I think it would be a good opportunity to maybe go back in the fall and some of the series maybe in previous years that we didn't have the chance to talk about on the record, but maybe you and I enjoyed back in the past. I'd be interested to see how you compare that series to other series.
Yeah, and jump in too as well after I'm done on this part because maybe I'm missing some series or maybe like if you had some personal series that you enjoyed as well. But just thinking at the top of my head, bro, I'm definitely thinking Philadelphia versus Toronto, where that Kawhi game winner in Game 7.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
there you
I'm
go.
thinking just taking us to the past, bro. I'm thinking possibly that Cavs Celtics when LeBron was kind of on his own and Tatum and Brown were just kind of like very young starting. I think Kyrie was out for the season that year. That was a good ending to a good series as well. You got Pacers Thunder that came from last season as well, and just thinking, man, I mean, I don't think anything can beat like the Heat, Spurs, Cavs, Warriors. Like with the one that went to 7 games for the Cavs, Warriors. Even though the Cavs, Warriors that 7 game series, all the games were honestly blowouts until the last game. But just like kind of like having a great ending. I'm kind of putting that out there. You got always the Lakers, Celtics at the times when Kobe would battle out Pierce, Garnett, and them, and then you got Kobe versus Duncan and the Spurs, and I mean, bro, if I'm missing anything, let me know, bro. But I'm just kind of taking
Yeah,
back to my personal. What are some of your
yeah,
personal favorite series from the past? I think it's up there with
yeah.
the Spurs there.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot for sure. I mean, even some of those old Clipper teams back in the day,
Oh yeah,
when they had well, they had some really good series like Clippers Spurs that one
that
year,
one.
Clippers Warriors. Um, there was even the Clippers Rockets series that one year when the Rockets were, if you remember the Josh Smith game when they were, I
Yeah,
mean, the series was done and dusted, and then they came back and game 6, I believe it was, and then they smacked the dog crap out of them in game 7. Um,
dude.
there's
How
been
about Jazz Nuggets too? When Mitchell and
yeah,
Murray were.
oh yeah, Jazz Nuggets was a great one too. When it felt like they were going back and forth every day. The Luka series,
Against the
against
Clips.
yeah, that series was great. The Boston Miami series from a couple years ago when
Oh yeah,
Boston was down 3-0 and they came back and then Miami took game 7. And then even the other series that they had, Miami and Boston, other editions of that. Um, you
man. There's been
know,
a lot of great series. Honestly, thinking
yeah,
back, yeah.
yeah,
It's
there's
just
so
different
many you forget
rounds. Yeah,
about. Yeah,
yeah,
different realms, different contexts, but there's been so many good series over the years. So many I'm probably forgetting too, and we'll have to go back and really, dig deep and maybe do like we could even make that a
yeah.
separate standalone episode because there's so many series over the years that probably escaped the mind. I mean, even
Any
some of
Raptor series that catch your eye?
the Raptor, yeah, the Raptor. One of my favorite playoff series back in the day was that Raptors Pacers series back in 2016 when Toronto went to Game 7 and they beat the Pacers and they knocked them out, and that was the year they went to the Eastern Conference Finals and they lost to Cleveland in 6.
Yeah,
Um,
20.
that was a really fun series. I mean, Even those old Memphis Grizzlies teams back in the day, the grit and grind Grizzlies,
Was Zach Randolph in them?
the Zach Randolph, Mike Conley teams,
Oh
they had
yeah.
some, if you remember the year a long, long time ago, I think it was like middle school, when they beat the Spurs in the first round that one
Oh
year,
yeah, yeah. That's a throwback. That's a
you
throwback.
know, yeah, there's so many series over the years. I mean, even Denver, Minnesota a couple years ago was a great
Oh
series.
yeah.
The Clippers and Jazz series from a couple years ago.
Oh yeah.
The Terrence Mann series. The Terrence Mann game.
Oh,
There,
Philly, Atlanta.
yeah, Philly, Atlanta. Yeah, the Ben Simmons one when the Hawks ended up winning that final game. Um, yeah, there's been so many. I mean, even Toronto, Milwaukee, when Toronto beat Philadelphia, that was a really interesting series if you go back because even when
Oh, they
Toronto,
talking about the Embiid Kawhi series.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, no, I honestly love that series. I was an Embiid fan, so I remember that series.
That was a really good
Oh,
series.
dude, we gotta talk about. I mean, there's Rockets Warriors too. Those
Yeah,
days.
Rockets Warriors, the game seven. When
Yeah.
the Rockets missed, what was it, 20 something three? I always forget the exact numbers, like 26 threes in a row.
Another throwback was Lakers versus Yao and the Rockets. T Mac.
Yeah, there you go. That was a good one. I always liked the Lakers Thunder series back in the day too, when it was the OKC's first real playoff run with Harden, Westbrook,
Oh
Durant.
yeah.
I think that series went 6 games, and even though the Lakers pulled out victorious, I remember watching that series, and you're thinking, oh man, these OKC guys aren't going anywhere. They're going to be really tough for a long time, and even the Thunder and the Spurs had a lot of really good series back in the day too, if you remember.
No, dude, I
During,
was about to bring that one up. Thunder Spurs, bro. They had
you
some
know,
banger series.
back when Ibaka was still there, and those renditions of those squads, they had some really good battles.
Oh,
Um,
Heat Pacers too, bro, with Paul George
Yeah,
taking
Heat
seven.
Pacers, and you know what?
Heat
Even
Celtics too, yeah.
uh, uh, the the Spurs series when they played who was it? Fuck, I blanked on
Oh,
it.
in the West. Like, who are
Yeah,
they playing in the West? Was it with Kawhi or was it with Duncan or
yeah, I was with Kawhi. I had a brain fart, but it'll come back to me later
Spurs
on. But
Warriors?
Spurs Warriors is good too. I mean, the Zaza Pachulia one that
Oh
was
no, but that was when Zaza took his. Yeah.
yeah, but no, yeah, there's been so many good series over the years. Even that New York Philly series in the first round from a couple years ago, I
Oh yeah,
enjoyed
that
that.
was good. That was a
That
good
was a
one.
really good series. Yeah, there's been so many fun playoff series over the years.
Oh,
Another
Milwaukee
Toronto series,
Boston. Milwaukee Boston too.
Milwaukee Boston was a great one.
There's
Um,
we gotta run an episode on all these like older
yeah, we'll have to do
series
that.
someday.
That would be a fun. Yeah, that would be a fun separate episode and really like go back in the vault and go back and look at all those because there's been some amazing series over the years and probably a bunch that we're forgetting. But
Yeah.
I think it goes to show you that I think the league's in a solid spot moving forward. With the parity, and the fact that these teams, like again going back to the Knicks and Spurs in the finals. Last year with the Pacers and the Thunder, I think these have been some really good 2 years in a row. I think you got two really good finals. I think things are looking up, man. I'm really excited to see how the rest of this NBA Finals plays out. We'll know a lot in the next 24 hours coming back tomorrow, with the Spurs and Knicks in game three. But that's been a really fun series, man. So any concluding basketball thoughts before we conclude this with the last part of our discussion?
No man, I think we hit the points, bro. Excited to see the rest of the Spurs Knicks. I don't think the series is over, but the Spurs do need to win Game 3. They need to win, and I think it's obvious. But wonder what they do, what adjustments they make, and yeah, man, I'm excited to see them, bro. I think my prediction. I think Spurs win Game 3. I think they come really focused, locked in. I think they win Game 3, and then we'll see what happens in Game 4.
Yeah, I'm with you there. But I'm gonna, like I said, I'm same as you. I'm gonna stick with the Spurs. I'm gonna still have the Spurs in seven as my prediction. Stick with that. I don't know if they'll win both at the Garden. They might go down 3-1, and I still think they can pull it out. But
3-1.
shout out to the Knicks, man. Regardless of how this series plays out, I've got a ton of respect for the Knicks. They're a really fun team to watch. They all complement each other really well. They play great team basketball. Um, but I think with San Antonio, the one thing you mentioned with the adjustments, I think what I've noticed with San Antonio is that one of the things I think I would like to see is, I think what I've noticed is when it gets to the fourth quarter, end of game, I think they kind of go away from what works for them. You go back to the Popovich Spurs, and Pop obviously still got a big imprint. There's a lot written about that where, even though Pop's not coaching anymore, he's still there day to day. They got all the other guys, Ginobili, Duncan, Parker, they're all involved. In the kind of the day to day operations within the Spurs organization. Um, I think the Spurs are at their best when the ball is zipping around and everybody's touching it. They've never really been an isolation sort of team. Not that they shouldn't isolation from time to time; they should do that. But I think finding that balance, and you know what? Actually, contrary to my point, I thought before, the last 30 something seconds of that game, especially when they had the chance and Wemby threw the ball out of bounds, I thought that they were going to pull that game out because they were playing really well down the stretch. They were
Yeah.
getting in transition, they were pushing the tempo. I thought Dylan Harper, I thought one of the adjustments, I thought Dylan Harper should have been on the floor at the end of game one. Mitch Johnson kind of came out and said, no, he didn't do anything. That was my choice. I think Dylan Harper should be on the floor at the end of the game. I don't not necessarily doesn't need to start at the moment, but I feel like he's one of those guys you need him on the floor at the end of the game, even though he's a rookie. I think he's not like most rookies. I think that dude's really good, man. I think he's
No,
a
I
super
agree.
making. I think he's got an ability to score at all three levels that a lot of young players don't have at this early stage of their career. And I still think he's any other team. I think he's the rookie of the year. I'll stand on that. Obviously, that's no disrespect to Cooper Flag and even Con Knippel and all those guys. But I really like Dylan Harper. I've liked him for a long time. I think he's just got a really smooth game. And then Steph Castle as well. I think Steph Castle's going to need a big game as well. He's done a really
Yeah.
good job defensively, Stephon Castle.
No, he has defensively. He has.
What he's been able to do, on SGA, Brunson, he's making these guys work. Even if they're gonna look, you're not gonna fully stop those guys, but just making them work, making them really earn their buckets and their points. And Stephon Castle is such a good defender that it enables them to play Jalen Brunson one on one without having to send that extra defender to get the
Yeah.
ball out of his hands. Um, yeah, I'll be interested to see what kind of adjustments they make and continue to make. But I'm gonna ride with the Spurs in Game 3. But you know what? If the Knicks win that Game 3 and they go up 3-0, I won't be upset, especially because New York City is probably going to be on fire one way or another. Um,
Yeah.
it's gonna be a really great game. And you want to talk about marketing and propaganda. I mean, there's no better way to do it than set up a big Game 3 like that in the Garden. The
Oh, it's
storyline,
gonna be epic. I think
the storyline.
Trump's going in there, right?
Oh yeah. That's gonna be. I know that's a whole separate can of worms of a conversation. We'll have to. That's a whole can of worms. Man. We'd have to carve out a couple of hours to do all that. Um, which I know you and I have a future conversation not related to that maybe a little bit, but yeah, there's that we're gonna have to talk about that probably at some point. Maybe not in this particular recording, but we will have to get into it. It's just something you kind of have to. Just have to
Yeah. I
talk.
mean, it's just going down right now. So
It's going down right now.
we'll save for a different topic.
It's going down right now. Yeah, no, just like you got to give the people something to look forward to, man. Um, but yeah, it's gonna be one
So
hell
you
of.
were cutting off a little bit. You were saying.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah, we got to give the people something to look forward to, and it's gonna be one hell of a
Oh,
game
most definitely.
regardless. But yeah, we got a lot of future discussions to get into for sure, man. It's been a long time in the making, and hopefully it's one of those things that Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 well, shit, that's gonna be a 5-hour conversation if we want it to be. But, kind of similar without, teetering on that edge a little bit. I know we mentioned earlier, with the open road and whatnot, and we kind of gave you a little bit of an earlier shout out earlier in the day with the homie Malik. Um, I know you were at this Columbia Jordan friendly out in San Diego earlier today,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
and I want to
No,
get your
yeah.
thoughts on that.
Yo, go ahead.
Oh, I want to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, man, I'm hitting the road from San Diego, bro. Give the fans some knowledge, bro. This is actually my first ever professional soccer game watching live, and it was just a friendly, but dude, this was fucking awesome, bro. It was fucking awesome. Um, yeah, I was going to see I'm a Middle Eastern Arab, so it was kind of cool seeing an Arab country down there. Versus a South American team of Colombia. Bro, soccer, dude, is so unmatched, bro. The culture, the fans, dude, the gathering, it's just amazing, bro. It's amazing. I was at the San Diego, I think it was San Diego State University stadium they were playing at. Um, Majority dominated by Colombians, but man, the Colombians, man, they were giving us some love, bro. They were loving the like kofiyas we were wearing as Middle Easterns. They were loving our culture, man. Every time I was with the group of Arabs, like the Arabs I was rolling with, every Colombian wanted to take a picture with us, bro. We were just snapping pics. Uh, they were loving us, bro. They were like, go Jordan, rooting for us, but also like rooting for their Colombians over us, but showing us the support. Got to see Luis Diaz, man. Got to see some of the Colombians, James, uh, and saw the Jordanian side as well. Wasn't just about the game, man. It was just about the culture, the fans, and I was telling you earlier, man. Like, how often do you get a World Cup right outside your house at the age of 20 in your prime, bro? Like, I'm just telling. Any fan watching this, man, take advantage. 5 weeks, just a 5 week sprint of World Cup football, different ethnicities, different cultures coming to your area, whether that's LA, SoCal, New York, any part of America, man. Like, doesn't even mean you have to go to a game, but just go to the gathering, go to the pre games, go to the post games. I just think it's the time of your life. You're not gonna get all these South Americans, these Asian countries, these Middle Easterns, like Latino community as well. Any community coming down to your area within an hour drive or 30 to 40 minute hour drive, depending on wherever you're at. Advise any person catch a game, whether that's watching a group watching, going with some friends, and going out to restaurants, cafes, wherever you want to hit. And if you end up catching the game, man, you're gonna love it, bro. You're gonna see the fans get hyped for it. And bro, I sent some videos to you, man. You saw it, bro. It was a mix of Colombian Arab culture, just getting down on the dance floor in the parking lot, bro. Like, and you can't ask for a better. We were just taking laps, bro, just talking to people, and I mentioned something through text that I can't say on the podcast, but it was lit time, bro.
You know what? Though? You know what, man? I couldn't agree more, dude. I think you said that beautifully. Well, you know what though? We did say we
I'll add
would.
this. I'll add this. There was many beautiful women on both sides, bro. That's all I'm gonna end
Hey,
it with.
God bless America, man. All I'll say is this. You mentioned we mentioned that we're gonna have to have a full on proper episode discussion. You mentioned the game three of the Knicks, the last part of that conversation that we had. With the attendance there for game three at the Garden. Um, we'll have a future discussion on this before the World Cup, and we'll have to carve out a proper chunk of time to really get into it. But I think you said it best, man. I think something that I hope people out there really know is I think there's a lot of things you might see on the internet, you might see online, and there's a lot of headlines off the pitch that are going to dominate some of the pre-World Cup coverage, and we'll talk about it because it's just part of what you have to talk about. It's just there's no way to go around it. whether you want to avoid it or not, you have to talk about it. And I think it's important to talk about it, and we shouldn't be afraid to talk about it. And you should always, you shouldn't. Once you're afraid to talk about something, you've lost everything already. I feel like you should always feel comfortable to be yourself. And I think one of the things we really want to do on him, and you said it best. I'm glad you said it. 'Cause, I'm glad. I always love to hear it from. It's always refreshing to hear that perspective from people that aren't myself, because I would say the same thing, man. I think there, what the World Cup is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about people from all over the world, different cultures coming together, regardless of our political differences and where we come from ethnically and religious backgrounds and the color of our skin and all these different things. What the World Cup is supposed to be about is bringing people together. You mentioned the Colombians and the Jordanians, the Arabs and the Latinos and the Latinas, and the African countries and the Middle Eastern countries, the Asian countries, the European countries, obviously North America, the US, Canada, Mexico, all these different nations and groups of people coming together, celebrating not only our differences of culture, but the similarities within our cultures as well. And the fact that, something like sport can bring us all together and make us forget about all the things like sometimes you see online. People say, like, oh man, we've never been this divided. We don't agree on anything. Everybody hates each other. Uh, all these things we'll get into with, like, restricting travel from certain areas of, people from
Uh-huh.
countries, that sort of deal. We'll do the deep dive on that. But I think what the World Cup's supposed to be about is about bringing people together. And even in this country, not even, people coming from other countries to watch, but within America, the diversity within the United States of people that live here are citizens of this country that were born here and have never lived anywhere else, but their families are from other places, and keeping that culture alive in that way as well, where, you know, maybe, celebrating the diversity within this country of the fact that we've got people from all different pockets of the globe being able to watch their teams. And I would encourage people that, like you said, even if because again, ticket prices are really expensive, and that's part of the deep dive.
Hmm.
But part of what we want to do, man, for the summer with these recordings is, we want to go out there. We want to talk to people on the streets,
Yeah.
random people, get the perspectives of all people from around, not only around the world, Southern California. I know we're going to have people, that are going to be traveling across the United States and North America to watch these different matches. Like, Malik mentioned earlier, he's watching France on the East Coast, and he'll probably, Malik's going to be chopping it up with all the different people on the East Coast. Um, and then obviously once he comes back out here, well, I definitely, I hope the people don't get discouraged by all of the things that you see and aren't afraid to showcase the diversity of
Yeah.
thought and of our cultures. There are going to be a million people and a million reasons that are going to tell you not to do something and to be afraid of, like, don't do that, don't do this, don't talk about this. Like, I think there's always a way to be respectful about it, where you're not being disrespectful to anybody. You're understanding of different people's viewpoints and the fact that not everybody's going to think and feel the same, which is what we want to encourage. But we also want to encourage that diversity, like you mentioned. Like, there's nothing more beautiful than the beautiful game of bringing people together. You've got, like, the videos you sent, man. That shit fucking chills down my spine, man. I was so
Hell yeah.
from
Hell
the
yeah.
lot. And honestly, would have loved to have
It was
been there.
just a friendly too. It was just a
Yeah, it's
friendly
just a
too.
friendly, like you said. I mean, that's just a friendly. Imagine what it's going to be like in a couple of days once the real tournament kicks off. And you know, I know there's a lot of people out there. I know in previous tournaments, there were some before the tournaments began. Similar, there were a lot of off the pitch concerns, and then once the matches start coming on, you try to, I think my hope is that this World Cup is a reminder that there's a lot of good people out there in this world from all different pockets of the world, and we want to celebrate that. We want to champion that. Uh, and I think it's going to be a good way to just kind of wrap this up and save it for future discussions. But I think you said it best, bro. It was only a friendly, and I do. I honestly, if we could find a way to get you to upload, like send those video or like share those videos with people just to showcase how amazing that looked from inside the
Oh
stadium.
yeah,
That was fucking awesome, man. Just seeing the passion and the dancing and the interaction between the cultures, like you mentioned. I mean, dude, we could talk about this for 7 hours.
you know what's crazy, dude? They even knew what group we're playing in, bro. Like I mean, like for Colombians, like why would you care about Jordan, bro? But they're like, oh, you're gonna go to Dallas to go play against Argentina. I'm like, bro, how did you guys know that?
because yeah, that's just like it's the passion, like you said. And I love the fact that you mentioned where it's like, hey, even though it's a friendly, obviously, and you're competing against each other in that friendly, there's that level of mutual respect where it's like, hey, we're rooting for you guys too.
Yeah,
Uh, you know, and that's what sports supposed to be about, man. It's not supposed to be divisive. It's supposed to bring people together, regardless of what you look like, what your beliefs are. It's supposed to be a time where we put all that aside and we all just enjoy the beautiful game. And so, what we want to do throughout the summer, especially once the matches start, obviously we want to recap all the matches. But I think what you and I have in mind for a vision of the summer is going out, talking to people, getting people on these recordings that we don't even know who they are. They might
yeah,
be
you know that'd be awesome, bro.
get
That'd be
that's what I'm
awesome.
looking forward to, man. Like I wanna go like outside of the stadiums, go to the watch parties, go to like get in the bars or the cafes, you know, just interact with people, whether they're tourists coming from different countries, or people that are, here in the United States and traveling from different parts of the United States to watch their native country of origin play, whatever it may be. I can't wait, man. It's gonna be a fucking
Yeah,
blast. And I hope with this conversation it sets up future conversations where, we want to unite people, man. Regardless, it's the United States. It's in the title. We want to unite people. We want this to be a place where people feel comfortable to talk about the things they're passionate about, and feel free and feel safe to talk about that without any fear of like, oh man, I shouldn't say this. I'm afraid to say that. Like, I think there's always room to talk about things and do it in a respectful manner where you understand where people are coming from, but also there's truth and power, and there's power in truth. And you never want to give one person or one group too much power, because at the end of the day, the beauty of society is that we're better when we're all together than if we're fighting against each other. So I hope that's the message of the World Cup.
bro, that's
Where
a mic drop right there, bro.
so
That's a banger.
che- cheers to that, man. We'll definitely have more conversations about this in the future. But any concluding thoughts before we wrap this up?
Bro, honestly, I think you ended it really good right there, bro. I'm gonna leave it like that. Mic
Hey
drop, bro.
man, I appreciate you for taking the time on your excursion from San Diego, to recap that and also talk about the NBA. And I know we're looking forward to the summer ahead, man. Uh, Shout out to the people, man. The people are going to be a part of the Unfiltered Reports coverage, and I'm looking forward to the people. I want all the people from
All the
all the corners
people,
of the globe,
all the people, all the
all
smoke.
the people. Hey, I look forward to that, man. We're going to manifest it, speak into existence. My brother, I love you, man. I
Thank you
can't
for
thank
having
you.
me again, bro. This is
Thank
awesome.
you,
Always
man.
enjoy.
No, this
I'll
always,
be on
and
future episodes.
starting this upcoming week, we're really going to ramp these up, you and I especially. So I'm looking
Yeah,
forward to that.
yes, sir.
All right, it's been the Unfiltered Report. Two brothers signing off. Stay safe out there.
Peace.